All right, let's begin. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. We are really glad that we are back with the season 4 of PhD the Philosophical Drama. I'm your host, Shweta, and today we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Dr. Nirali Rathwa. Nirali did her PhD from the Sayaji Rao University of Baroda, Gujarat, in India, and she's currently in Toronto where she works with startups that sorry work with healthcare and industry. So let's call Nirali over and see what she has in store for us.
Hi,
Hello.
Shweta. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. And thank you so much for inviting me for this session. Let's hope that we can entertain our audience and answer some of the questions that they have or maybe curious about my journey.
Yes. And thank you so much for taking time out and joining. And I'm really sure that, I'm very sure that this is going to be a good session.
Let's hope so.
Okay, let's get started. Let's go through your PhD journey and then talk about your transition into what you're doing now. So, tell me a little about how you started your PhD. We were like classmates, batchmates, and masters. So I
Yeah.
know that you were like really confused about if you really want to join a PhD program. So take us through how you decided that you want to do a PhD.
Yeah, of course. Interestingly, so for everyone who have joined us today, Shweta and I go a long way. We have been classmates during our masters, and I did my undergrad from the same university in chemistry, and then I pivoted toward biochemistry for my masters. And during that phase, I really enjoy my dissertation project, working on diabetes, working on the RAP model, which some of the people who are taking some classes in practicals in maybe dissection wouldn't like it, but I enjoyed that thing, how the biological system work. So I figured out that I wanted to pursue PhD, and I was also like super focused on doing in diabetes, and I started hunting for lab. But there were three aspects where I was keen, where I wanted to do my PhD, and that was that I wanted to do it from Gujarat or let's say from my own hometown. So that
Okay.
was a big factor for me. And I started hunting for the labs. And interestingly, one more of our classmate, Roma Patel, she is currently in US as well doing postdoc. She told me about a diabetes project that is being started in her own PhD lab. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually I joined that lab um, under a professor who was also my master professor. So the transition was like a smooth for me. And eventually I cracked state level exam for that. I did MPhil through that journey. And what kept me motivated is like I wanted to be a professor. I wanted to start my own research lab. I want to do those experiments. However, I didn't go that route, but we'll tell you in few moments that why
Yeah,
didn't I
yeah,
take that
yeah.
route.
Yeah. So let's talk a little more about your how your journey during your PhD was. Like, what were your experiences? You were in a university which is like drastically different from an institute, which is an institute usually in India is more resourceful than a university. And I'm aware that your lab itself was resourceful, but then there are still challenges of working in a university. So, how was that?
Um, I would say I'm very grateful. Like now looking back at that journey, that I was in a lab which was very resourceful, and though I had really tough PI, I would say, but in terms of one thing that I really like about her was she wouldn't restrict us from doing any particular experiments or like anything that we wanted to pursue. And so it was really amazing to be in that kind of lab where you get all the chemicals or reagent that you want. However, there were aspects like unlike big institute in India, um, university in if they are well funded, it's good. But if there is a delay in the fund, then you have to wait for certain chemicals or some reagents or even small things like tissue roll. So I still remember this incident that we had there where our grant was limited. It wasn't released, and we wanted this particular antibodies. And I was like, I really need this antibody. And I remember texting all my masters, including you, Shweta, who was, I think, at that time in ISA Pune, that I
Yeah.
want this particular antibody. I connected you with one of
All
my
right.
lab mates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
remember that. I
yeah,
remember that time when I think there was this master student who was doing a project in my lab, and I sent those antibodies
yeah.
via her, and I also asked her to, like, whenever you reach home, just put it in your fridge and it will be fine. Yeah, yeah, that fun times.
Yeah, true. I mean, like you have to literally struggle through that phase of trying to, even if you get the antibodies, how are you going to get it to the lab? So,
Right.
if anyone is starting a startup for this end solution, and maybe a supply chain thing, this is a good idea if they want to do
Put it in your fridge, is it?
it. Yeah,
Trust me, a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that.
yeah,
Yeah, because especially if you just need a small aliquot, then might
yeah,
as well just put it in your home fridge and
yeah, true.
save it. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. So you said that you had a tough PI, but at the same time you admired her for how she handled the lab.
Yeah,
So how was your way to, like, in handling a tough PI? A lot of people face this issue that okay, I don't have an easygoing
mm,
PhD guide,
yeah.
and that is something which is an important aspect of your PhD journey. So what did you do? What are your tips for people who also have a strict PI?
Wow. I think it depends on individual, but for me, what worked really well was that um, I had really good support system in terms of friends and family and even lab mates. So even if we had a really bad moment or a bad day at lab, at the end of that day, we would not just sit and sulk in the lab, would rather go out for a walk or maybe just a pani puri or like just go out to a cafe or watch movie. That was my way of just
Unwinding.
detoxicating the whole
Hmm.
day or your bad moment or a day. So it depends on what you like. Try to pursue any hobbies or any other things that you really enjoy. I would say a lot of people tend to go into that rabbit hole of just doing PhD during their
Hmm.
PhD phase
Hmm.
is not a good idea. I think you should pursue some kind of hobby or some alternative like career or something. If you like writing or you like blogging, do that. It's really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good idea. I think during the PhD years, a lot of us go back to our basics, see what suits us, and check if you are still interested in the
Yeah,
hobbies that you followed as a kid or a child, and connecting with those things is easier when you
yeah.
are so much stressed, and it is also helpful during your journey. So yes, that's a good point. um
And I would
so
also say, sorry to interrupt.
no,
Uh,
you're fine.
I think Shweta, I think you did a lot of skit, if I'm not wrong, during your own PhD phase, right?
I was into theater, yes, yes.
Yes. So
So
I
yeah, I
think
think
that's a
that is
good way.
something which I used to use for unwinding,
Mm.
definitely. And I'm not an extrovert, not a very, very social person. So for me, I think having people who were not related to the kind of work that I'm doing, and indirectly having a social circle helped a lot for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know, I mean, you are relatively a more social person than me. I'm sure you had, like, many friends and many options to hang out with, like, with respect to people. And also you were at home. So I think staying close to family also helps, right? What
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, it definitely does, I would say. But I think that you shouldn't restrict yourself from making new friends.
Yeah,
Uh, you that would also be the case if you're moving out of your city or your country. That is like a
absolutely.
constant phase in your life.
Yeah. I think networking in terms of your career or not your career is
Yeah,
both important
yeah,
for us to function normally.
yeah,
Um, so your whole PhD journey, the way I look at most of the journeys of PhDs is that you have a starting phase, which is like very exciting. You're starting out something new,
yeah,
and you're like, okay, I'm going to conquer the world, and I'm going to find the solution to this problem that I have for
yeah,
my PhD. And then you have the middle phase, which is like kind of you're like nothing is happening. I don't know where I'm going. Should I leave? I don't know. This does not make sense. Am I even capable of doing that? The imposter syndrome comes in, and then later maybe towards the which is what I would call the end is things start falling into place, and you think that okay, now I think I can see the end, and maybe this makes sense, and I'll put together this work and maybe publish this, and also have a thesis for this, and that is how one ends up getting their PhD. Was it similar for you? Like, did you also have like these three phases, or no? Because I remembered, I think during your PhD also, we used to have, these chats where we used to talk about, oh, then do you think we should, like, both of us, am I going to continue in this program or not? I don't know where my experiments are going. I don't know. I'm not getting any inputs. There is nothing happening. I'm getting only negative results, which is kind of not publishable. So I don't know if I'll get my, degree. And I don't know if this is what I want to do. That is somewhere where we also realize that if I want to actually continue in academia or not? This is
Oh
very
my
tough.
God. Yeah, I
What was
totally
your
agree
experience?
with that. All three phases. And I think I would like put it in like that excitement honeymoon phase where you're very happy. Like, yay, I got in this PhD program. I'm just going to have this next Nobel Prize. No, that doesn't happen. And the second phase of I want to quit. Like I can't take this anymore. My experiments are crappy. I don't know where they're heading towards. I'm not getting good data, and the last phase is like अब ये कब खत्म होगा. I want just get done with it. So
Just get
possible.
done with it. Yes.
Yeah,
Write your thesis and submit it.
yeah. And I think that's okay. To have that three phases. But even now looking back, I have this one particular publication where we didn't get the good result. It was
Mhm.
totally like a result which was very opposite to what it was in the literature or previous
Okay.
publication, but still we went ahead and put down a story around it and got it published. So I think that you shouldn't get demotivated by the fact that this particular thing is not working. It might be some interesting observation that you are not seeing, and you can make a good picture, get more data or story around it and get it published. But again, it depends on your PI, of course.
Right.
That's why I like my PI, or this one trend of where data is data. It's how you interpret, analyze, and then put it in your
Right.
story.
Absolutely. I think you can't really help science. Every day you make a new hypothesis and every day it fails. But when it fails, you have to interpret in a different way, and see if it works for you and see what comes out of it. If it helps the
Yeah,
community, and
yeah,
yeah, and if it does, then it's great to put it out there. And I think that is really, really great, and I appreciate that angle of thinking, really. Because there are people who think that okay, this is what I had thought, and this is only how it should go around, and if
hmm,
not that, then nothing else. Then it just goes into the trash, which which is, I don't think, a great way of doing science. That's my perspective. But
Yeah,
yeah.
true. Agree.
So you wrote your thesis when you were already in Canada, right?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Uh,
Well, there's again a personal factor as to why I landed up in Canada. And also like towards my end of my PhD, I was where like yeah, I want to explore other countries, but I wasn't now keen on pursuing my career goals in academic setting. Um, because when I started, I wanted to be a professor, but I realized that some of my qualities and way I think and I work didn't align with me being in the lab the whole time. And I like the science. I still do like the science part, I would say, but I wasn't keen on being in the lab the whole time. So what are the routes that you can pursue beside postdoc to go to other countries? People who are still doing PhD and want to go out postdoc, I would say do it if you really enjoy science and research, and it's really good path for your immigration process as well. But for me, it was not that route. So I started exploring, and there are different work permit and PR route
mhm.
for different countries, and a lot of people are now aware of it, whether it's Canada, UK, New Zealand, Australia. So that drive my decision to be in Canada, and I came here through that route, and I was done with my experiment, so the last phase was writing a thesis, and most of my work was already published. So I just have to like compile everything and put it down in a thesis form. Yeah, it was a little tricky at that moment because I was like the different time zone,
Hmm.
working with my PI and my lab mates, and like here like coordinating. So my sleep cycle was like awful at those phases in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Was that during the pandemic?
Of course. Like it was
So
not so good time, I would say, with a pandemic kicking in and like what the hell is going on.
yeah. But I think one bright side to that would have been because it was a pandemic, people had lesser work. So
Mm.
your PI must have been like faster in terms of looking at things that you are writing, and also even if it was the time difference, and of course that's very, very tough. But I'm sure that even in that case, it was a little easier. So I think the pandemic was a blessing in disguise. Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Let's look at the rosy side now.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so your transition to Canada, how did that happen? As in, I know that you already were in Canada and you wrote your thesis, but how did you land in your current job? And also tell us about your current job.
Yeah, for sure. So, to work when I was like completing my PhD, and I was like, yes, I don't want to do research further,
Mm-hmm.
and the only options that our universities or institute would give is like you can become an R&D scientist in biotech or pharma company, or you can pursue postdoc. And so I started networking. And I agree that pandemic was a boon in disguise. Uh, is like a lot of people open up to that virtual networking. So I connected with a lot of people on LinkedIn. I just wrote, "Hey, we both have done PhD, and now you have pivoted towards maybe other alternative careers." So there are a lot of careers like scientific writing, uh, incubator, accelerator, startups, then venture capital, business development, sales and marketing. There's so many things that you can do that usually masters or PhDs are not aware of, and they're not aware, and also they undervalue their PhD.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
and it gives you it gives you satisfaction not in terms of your degree, but the compensation that you get. Like you get
Mm-hmm.
really well paid because you have this advanced degree, right? So I started connecting with this lot of professional and like talking to them and understanding how their journey was, and eventually I did an internship with the venture capital firm. So what it's like being on the Shark Tank. Is that what they say on Sony TV? Yeah. So, and I started observing how startup work.
Mm-hmm.
So, the best part was I was bringing my own scientific expertise to the team. While the challenging part was I had to learn a lot of financial terminologies or knowledge, like how the business operate, how it would work, how do you commercialize your product, put in the market, what the customers need, and things like that. So that was the challenging part, and eventually I landed it in my current role as associate on the startup at Mars Discovery District. So it's one of the largest innovation hub in Canada.
Okay, okay. So what do you currently do? Like as your current role, what do you actually do?
Right. So I work like a middle person for our startup. So I'm their main point of contact. I would be helping them grow and scale their business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I do for my team is I do the scientific due diligence. So like I would go through the science part or the scientific platform or let's say the product because I understand how it works.
Okay.
Hypothetically, let's say we have a oncology based or a cancer based company, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
understand like, okay, this drug, how much work they have done, what kind of preclinical or clinical studies they have already done, what are the chemical or metabolic pathways that they have seen, is their drug even effective, and can they commercialize it and put it there in the market, can the patient really benefit from that drug? So I do
Okay.
all that part and then also help the team with various regulatory pathways because they have to go through the FDA or
Mm-hmm.
Health Canada process. So we help them with that process, and eventually they are in the market. So that's the phase we do. On the business side, I have help from the team where they understand what are the legal or the, let's say, other phase like or business laws that they have to go through, how to incorporate, like set up your business in this particular country, if they're expanding to US or Europe, how they are going to do that. So we are a whole team that work both on the science and the business aspect.
Okay, okay. I think you are a person who was always interested in like entrepreneurial jobs, and I think also before you started your PhD, you were also looking for if there's any chance of working with a startup or starting one of your own. Uh, I think that is something like you have that kind of a mindset, is what I feel. And I think this is a very, very nice role for you, as in with respect to your expertise and also your interests. So I'm sure you are having fun working here.
I really
Um,
appreciate your words, Shweta. I do not know if I'll start a company or not. Let's see that. But thank you for this wonderful words.
Consider me for a job if you do.
Or why not on the founding team?
Wow. I'll send you my CV. Thank you so much for your offer. A small question that I had about your process, about how your company works is when you say that you're looking for if a particular drug, for
Yeah.
example, can go into market. So is it only for Canadian things or is it also like global?
Yeah. So at my current role, we are just working with the Canadian ventures because we are like our organization is funded by Canadian corporates and the federal and provincial government here. But there are same kind of organization both in US, Europe, and India as well. Like in
Mm-hmm.
India, there are DS, DST, and one more that do give loans to our startup.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if anyone have question, feel free to connect with
Right.
me over Instagram or LinkedIn. I can give you the links for that list. And it's more easy for biotech, take a lot of time to commercialize and get into market because like it takes years to do the research, to do preclinical studies or clinical studies.
Right.
So more like I would say for biotech companies, 80% of them spin out from academic institute. The famous
Mm-hmm.
one is Moderna or like Moderna or AstraZeneca, who
Mm-hmm.
gave
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
um, COVID vaccine.
Right.
Most of them have spin from academic institute,
Mm-hmm.
and then initial funding is done by these grants, and you don't have to give your equity or ownership
Mm-hmm.
to your investors, right? You can have the whole ownership of your own company, your you can get names on the patents, so it's easier. And then eventually toward the last phase, or let's say in the clinical phase where you will need a lot of money, you start getting money from the big investors or people with a high net worth. You start getting money from them, and you can pivot to commercializing your product into the market.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying that there are opportunities like these, not just in Canada, but also in India and also other
US,
countries.
Europe, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
There are a
That's
lot of
good to know.
opportunities. Again, the only catch would be you might have to look at the criteria or eligibility as to what they give to people who are on citizenship or
Mhm.
on what
Yeah.
is your immigration status would be. So Indian citizen, let's assume that I think DBT gives around 25 lakh uh, uh, in the initial phase, but one person on the founding team has to be Indian citizen.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I think this is very important also because people do not know about these things, and there are so many opportunities which are missed because of this reason that nobody knows that they exist. So I think people like you, if someone from our audience is interested, they can connect with you, and you can definitely help them navigate
for
this path.
sure. Happy
Yeah.
to do that. I would be more than happy to help any PhDs who want to start their own company.
That's really great. I mean, that's commendable of you. Um, do you have any advice from your journey for our viewers? Or
Um, like just don't fix yourself on having these practical skills from the PhDs. There are a lot of soft skills that you learn,
yeah,
such as project management or how you communicate, budgeting, like how would you budget your whole experiments. Um, and one of the things that I have learned is like I now at the end of my PhD, I can really, scan through a large volume of literature,
Mhm.
get that specific answers, like you can scan through the whole publication. Okay, this is the thing that I just want. I read, you get your answer, and then you don't go through that rabbit hole of reading one after another publication. So
Right.
that's one super human skill that you develop over PhD, I would say. And on the personality development side, I would say resilience. You become so tolerant, and you have this patience that even if the plans don't go as what you have thought about, you know that you'll come up with this plan B or C or D. You'll just figure out a way out of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think soft skills are really undermined when it comes to a PhD, but they are something which is an important part of the whole learning of the PhD journey, and we don't really realize it till the
Yeah.
end or till we get out of our program or our comfort zones. But we understand that when we are out, and let's say we are doing some other job, and we realize that we do have an edge over others. So yes, that's a great point of view. Okay, so we have this um, new segment which is called
Yeah.
as rapid liar.
Yeah.
Uh, Basically rapid fire, but you have to lie. You don't have to tell the truth.
No pressure
So
at all.
I'm going to ask you questions,
Yeah.
and you just shoot out your answers and lie.
Okay.
Should be easy. Okay, let's see. During your PhD days, what is the first thing you did when you entered your lab?
Oh gosh. I give my presentation to PI on what I want to work on.
Wow, that's
Interestingly,
focused. That's
didn't
focus.
happen. That didn't happen.
Yeah. Work from home versus working on the bench. So currently you also have like a hybrid working situation, right? You sometimes also work from home. So work from home work versus working from like on the bench, which is better and why?
I I do not enjoy the flexibility. I do not enjoy the time I can go out in middle of the meeting for my grocery. I do not enjoy cooking in middle of my meeting and listening to meeting. That's something I do not enjoy working from home.
Okay, fair enough. I really hope none of your colleagues have joined this call. Um, if you had to do your PhD again, I hope not, but if what is the one thing which you absolutely refuse to do?
Refuse to do. Oh my God. I um I don't want to write publications again. I do not
Yeah,
like writing.
you mean you want to, right?
Yeah,
Refuse. I think it's a double negative. That's
yeah,
on me. Yeah, you basically you love writing.
yeah. Though it would be more humorous publication, like something very funny. I don't know if journals would allow me to do that.
Baroda or Toronto?
Baroda all the time. Baroda
Oh,
is my heart.
oh, that's sweet. Um, I think I love Baroda too. I mean, I haven't been to Toronto, but you mean Toronto, right? You are supposed to lie.
No, in this case, it's vice versa. Sorry. So I really don't enjoy living in Toronto. The snow is awful, and the days are gray. So I do not like living in Toronto. Yeah, that would be
I
better
don't
answer.
know if you're lying or you're telling the truth seriously. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10,
Yeah,
how much do you miss academia? You have to lie.
0.
Okay. React in one word. So you can react like
Yeah.
in
Okay.
one word or also just like act. Okay.
Okay. Let's try that. I'm just
Biochemistry.
chemical locha.
Okay.
2 words.
Startup.
Sorry.
Startups.
A blender of emotions.
Indian stores in a foreign country.
Amul cheese and vada pav.
Current distance from home.
I don't know. I think 1500 kilometers, I guess.
Canadian winters.
Hot chocolate and snowman.
Festivals in Baroda.
Navratri. Uttarayan. Yeah.
What is it that you miss the most from your PhD journey?
Um, what I miss? I miss my lab mates. And I also miss that towards the end of evening, sometimes we used to like work late night, like late evenings or night in labs. We used to play songs on laptops and do experiments. You can't do that in the job.
Okay, only for the like just for the interest of our audience, she's telling the truth. This is not no more a rapid liar. She's she's not lying. Uh, which was the best year of your PhD?
Best year, when the year I got my first publication, I think it was in 2018. I guess that was like my first publication. I was super, super duper
Excited.
happy. Yeah,
Dhruv just joined. He says that he has an answer for the question. He said that
not missing your.
not missing
Oh
your
my
bride.
God.
Yes, we agree. What was your reaction on defending your thesis? That's your last question.
Harsh, it's done. Finally, I'm a doctor.
Yeah, don't we all?
Yeah, and we are like, why I put myself to this journey. At that moment, I was thinking through that, but now I'm like, okay, it's a bittersweet kind of journey.
Yeah, yeah. No one knows. No one has the answer to that question.
Yeah,
on a
we don't
medical
want to
officer.
scare people over here to not pursue PhD or continue PhD, I would say.
Oh no, it's yeah, of course not. But I mean, on a brighter side, if you're doing good science, if you're enjoying what you're doing in the lab, you have really nice colleagues and a good mentor, like any of these combinations, then it's good to do PhD. I think uh, on a really nice uh, level, I have had some of the best days, and of course, some of the worst during my PhD. So it's worth it.
Yeah, true. I
Yeah.
agree. And also, like, I would say, network or make friends out of your current batch of PhDs, so your juniors or your seniors. You can learn a lot of things from them as well, and just see their journey. It's beautiful for each individual.
Yes, yes, yes. On that note, thank you so much for joining us today, Nirali. I had a fun time with you also. Thank you. Also remembering like old memories. I had completely forgotten about that antibody thing.
Yeah.
Remind me of that. And yeah, all of it. Really, like, thank you so much for joining and all your inputs also for your current work and also during your journey. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shweta, for inviting me. And yeah, it was lovely chatting with you. I hope some of our folks over here enjoyed our conversation as well. And I'll see you if anyone's need any help or support. Just ping me over Instagram or LinkedIn.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Um, so you can exit. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. And I really hope that you enjoyed today's session. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And we'll be back with another fun session in a couple of weeks. Till then, stay tuned. And also, if you have any questions, any comments, please write to us. We'll make sure that we respond to you over our page and our Instagram chat. Thank you so much.